I didn't steal your wife, Mr. Harrington, but I did raise your son when she never came back. Before we continue, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories like this one. It was spring in Savannah, Georgia, the air thick with magnolia scent and secrets. Inside the grand Harrington estate, marble floors gleamed like mirrors, and silence filled the halls that once echoed with laughter. The disappearance of Amelia Harrington, the millionaire's elegant wife, had left more than a scandal. It had left an infant boy without a mother. And that's where Clara Ruiz came in, a young maid from San Antonio, soft-spoken yet unyieldingly loyal. She had come to the mansion just weeks before Amelia vanished without a trace. Now, 3 months later, she was the only one who dared to cradle the baby, Eli, when the house felt like a tomb. Ethan Harrington, the master of the house, was a man transformed, from a charming entrepreneur to a ghost of himself. Every night, he sat by the nursery door, but never stepped inside. People whispered that he blamed himself, that the police had no leads, that maybe, just maybe, his wife had run away. But no one dared to ask. Clara didn't mean to care as much as she did. She had her own heartbreaks, a family lost to poverty, a younger sister she hadn't heard from in years. Yet, something about the helpless baby and the hollow man stirred something inside her. She often sang lullabies in Spanish, her voice trembling but warm, unaware that Ethan sometimes stood by the doorway, listening. One night, as thunder cracked outside and rain lashed against the windows, Ethan finally spoke. "You don't have to stay up all night, Clara," he said quietly. His voice carried exhaustion, guilt, and something softer. She turned, startled. "He cries when I leave, sir. I think he feels alone." Ethan looked away. "We all do." That brief exchange was the first since Amelia's disappearance. From then, something shifted, unspoken, yet undeniable. Clara began to notice how his gaze lingered on the baby, and sometimes on her hands as she held him. But guilt chained him. He couldn't bring himself to feel anything but remorse. Rumors in the town grew cruel. People claimed the maid knew more than she said, that perhaps she had something to do with Amelia's disappearance. Others whispered that Ethan was hiding something, that his wife's car wasn't found where they said it was. One afternoon, while cleaning Ethan's study, Clara found a letter, unsealed, lying between business papers. It was written in Amelia's elegant hand, dated a week before she vanished. "If anything happens to me, look after Eli. Don't trust everyone around you." Clara froze, the paper trembling in her hands. Someone else had read this. There was a faint smudge of ink near the edge, like a fingerprint. She folded it back carefully, her heart racing. That night, she couldn't sleep. Ethan seemed colder than usual, avoiding her eyes. And for the first time, Clara wondered if the man she served was hiding a truth darker than heartbreak. But then Eli began to cry, and when Ethan entered the nursery and saw Clara rocking him, tears welled in his eyes. "He looks peaceful with you," he whispered. It was the first time she saw him cry, and neither of them knew that this moment, quiet, fragile, forbidden, would change their lives forever. He had tears in his eyes, and neither of them knew that this quiet, forbidden moment would change everything. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the garden drenched and glowing beneath the Georgia sun. Clara stood by the window, watching droplets fall from the magnolia trees, her mind replaying the image of Ethan's trembling hands, his whispered words. She told herself it meant nothing, just grief, just exhaustion. But her heart refused to listen. Downstairs, the housekeeper, Mrs. Dalton, eyed her with suspicion. "You've been spending too much time upstairs," she said sharply. "Mr. Harrington doesn't need pity from the help." Clara kept her voice low. The baby needs someone. Mom, The baby has a father, Mrs. Dalton interrupted, and the father doesn't need anyone reminding him of what he's lost. Those words echoed painfully. But later that day, when Ethan called her into his study, Clara's resolve wavered again. His desk was covered in old photographs. Amelia smiling on a yacht, Amelia holding baby Eli, Amelia with her hand resting on Ethan's shoulder. But one photo stood out. It was Amelia standing beside another man, a man Clara didn't recognize, his face half hidden in the shadow. Ethan noticed her gaze. "That was taken 2 months before she disappeared," he murmured. "Her old college friend, or so she said. Do you think I don't know what to think anymore." His voice cracked, then steadied. "I just know Eli deserves peace, and for some reason, he only finds it with you." It was the first time he admitted it aloud. Something fragile grew between them. Not love yet, but trust trying to bloom in the cracks of grief. That night, when Clara carried Eli upstairs, she found a small silver locket beneath the crib. She opened it gently. Inside was a picture of Amelia and Ethan smiling, and a second, newer photo behind it of Amelia holding a baby that wasn't Eli. The infant's features were different. Darker hair, slightly older. Clara's heart stopped. Who was that child? She hid the locket in her apron pocket, unsure what to believe. The next day, 2 detectives arrived at the mansion, their questions sharp as knives. "When was the last time you saw Mrs. Harrington?" one of them asked Clara. 3 days before she disappeared," Clara answered carefully. "She seemed frightened." "Frightened of what?" She hesitated. "Someone called her that morning. She dropped the phone and told me never to mention it." The detectives exchanged a look. One of them glanced toward Ethan's office. "We'll need to speak with Mr. Harrington again." As they left, Ethan appeared in the hall, his expression hard. "What did you tell them?" "Only the truth," Clara replied softly. He stared at her for a long time, then, almost as if fighting himself, said, "Be careful who you trust, Clara. Not everyone here wants the truth to come out." That night, she sat by the nursery window, the locket cold in her palm. The magnolia branches swayed under the moonlight, their scent heavy, almost suffocating. Somewhere deep down, she knew this house still kept secrets, and that she was now a part of them. And what she discovered next would make her question everything she thought she knew about the Harringtons. She knew this house still kept secrets, and that she was now a part of them. And what she discovered next would make her question everything she thought she knew about the Harringtons. The following morning, the mansion was eerily quiet. Ethan had gone to his lawyer's office, and Mrs. Dalton was busy downstairs, leaving Clara alone with Eli. As the baby napped peacefully, Clara couldn't shake the thought of the silver locket hidden in her apron drawer. The second child in that photo haunted her. Who was that baby? And why did Amelia keep it so close to her heart? When Clara went into the library to dust the bookshelves, she noticed one of the old volumes pulled halfway out. Southern Estates and Their Legacy. Behind it, a thin stack of papers was tucked into the shadows. She hesitated, then slid them out. The handwriting was unmistakably Amelia's. The first page began like a diary. March 15th. I don't know how much longer I can pretend. The truth is eating me alive. If Ethan ever finds out about the letter from Houston, everything will crumble. Houston. Clara's heart skipped. She was from San Antonio, only a few hours away. She kept reading, her fingers trembling. He thinks Eli is our only child, but there's another, and he'll never forgive me if he learns why. The rest of the page was torn. Clara's knees went weak. Another child. The baby in the locket wasn't a stranger. It was Amelia's. But where was that child now? Suddenly, the door creaked. Ethan stood there, his eyes cold, unreadable. What are you doing with that? I was cleaning, and I found these papers." He strode forward and snatched them from her hand. His tone was sharp, but his eyes looked afraid. "You shouldn't have read this. I wasn't trying to— Just forget what you saw," he interrupted. "It's better that way." Clara took a step back, the air thick with tension. "Mr. Harrington, you're hiding something, aren't you?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned toward the fireplace and threw the papers into the flames. The fire crackled, devouring the truth before her eyes. But one sheet fluttered away, half-burned, landing near her feet. She caught a glimpse before he noticed a hospital name. St. Mary's Maternity Ward, Houston, TX. That night, she couldn't stop thinking about it. When she finally slept, her dreams were filled with Amelia's voice whispering, "Protect him, Clara. Protect him from the truth." The next day, Ethan acted as though nothing had happened. He was composed, polite, distant again. Yet his eyes carried a storm. He asked Clara to take Eli for a walk by the garden, and as they passed the magnolia trees, she saw something half buried in the soil, the corner of a photograph, weathered and damp. She knelt and brushed away the dirt. It was Amelia again, standing in front of St. Mary's Hospital, holding a baby. The same baby from the locket. On the back, a date was written in faded ink, February 14th, 2012. Clara clutched the photo to her chest, heart racing. Eli was born in May 2012. So who was the baby Amelia held 3 months earlier? When she turned toward the house, Ethan was watching her from the balcony, his expression unreadable. And for the first time, she felt a flicker of fear, not of him, but of what he might be willing to do to keep his past buried. What she did next would change both their lives forever. What she did next would change both their lives forever. That evening, long after Eli had fallen asleep, Clara slipped quietly out of the servants' quarters. The photograph burned like a secret against her chest. She needed answers, and she knew exactly where to start. In the study, Ethan's safe was hidden behind a portrait of Amelia. Clara had seen him open it once, the code quick and practiced. It wasn't right to intrude, she knew that. But something deep in her heart whispered that this wasn't just about curiosity anymore. It was about protecting Eli, and maybe even Ethan himself. Her fingers trembled as she turned the dial, recalling the faint clicks she'd heard that night. 4 digits, 2 pauses. Then, a soft click. The door opened. Inside, stacks of papers and envelopes, bank statements, property deeds, and at the very back, a small brown envelope marked Houston. She opened it and froze. Inside were 2 birth certificates, one for Elijah Harrington, born May 2nd, 2012, and another for Isaac Ruiz, born February 14th, 2012. Ruiz, her own last name. The room began to spin. Her breath hitched as she reread it, her trembling hand covering her mouth. The mother's name, Amelia Grace Harrington. The father's name, blank, Isaac Ruiz. The baby in the locket. The baby in the photo. Her baby. Memories flooded her mind. Her sister, Lucia, who disappeared 3 years ago after giving birth at a clinic in Houston. She had told Clara she was working for a wealthy family, then suddenly vanished, leaving only a postcard that said, "He'll have a better life." Could it be? No. But the surname, the dates, the fear in Amelia's letters, it all connected like a chain of ghosts. "Clara!" The voice made her jump. Ethan stood in the doorway, his expression shadowed. "What are you doing?" She held up the certificate. "You tell me." He stepped closer, his face pale. "You weren't supposed to find that." "Who is Isaac Ruiz?" she demanded. "And why is Amelia's name on this paper?" Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his composure cracking. "Because she lied about everything." He looked at the certificate, then met Clara's eyes. Isaac was born before Eli. Amelia couldn't have children. She arranged a private adoption, said the mother was a distant relative. I didn't know the truth until after she was gone. Clara felt her knees weaken. My sister, she whispered, Lucia Ruiz. She had a baby she gave up. That must have been him. Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief. Then that means... Yes, Clara said, her voice trembling. The boy she adopted, your first son, he's my nephew. The silence between them was heavy, almost unbearable. Then Ethan whispered, Clara, you can't tell anyone. If the press finds out, they'll destroy both families. Tears filled her eyes. Families built on lies deserve the truth. He reached out to her. Please, I'm trying to protect Eli. You don't know what Amelia was running from. What was she running from, Ethan? Clara's voice cracked. Tell me the truth. But before he could answer, the sound of a door slamming echoed through the hall. Mrs. Dalton's voice called out sharply from downstairs. Mr. Harrington, detectives are here again. They've found something by the riverbank. Ethan's face went white. He turned to Clara, his eyes filled with dread. Stay with the baby. Don't let anyone in until I'm back. And as he ran down the stairs, Clara stood frozen, clutching the 2 birth certificates, one for a child she never knew was family, and another for the boy she had come to love as her own. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. The magnolia trees swayed violently in the wind. Something terrible was coming, and she was about to learn that Amelia's disappearance was not the tragedy she thought, but the beginning of something much darker. Something terrible was coming, and she was about to learn that Amelia's disappearance was not the tragedy she thought, but the beginning of something much darker. The night swallowed the mansion in silence. From the nursery window, Clara saw flashing lights in the distance, red and blue reflections rippling through the rain-slicked magnolia leaves. Eli stirred in his crib, and she gently placed a hand on his back, whispering, It's all right, mi amor. You're safe. But she didn't believe her own words. Down by the riverbank, police cars lined the muddy road. Ethan stood under an umbrella, his face pale as a ghost. The detective spoke in hushed tones before one of them approached him with a sealed evidence bag. Inside was something small and delicate, a gold bracelet with the initials A.H. It was Amelia's. Where did you find this? Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper. Caught on a branch in the current, one detective replied. Could have been there for months. We'll need a DNA match to confirm if it's hers. Ethan's hands shook. He knew what that meant. Hope was dying. The river was where Amelia had last been seen, the place where her car was discovered abandoned. When Ethan returned home near midnight, his clothes were soaked, and his eyes carried 1,000 storms. Clara met him in the foyer, still clutching the folded birth certificates. They found something, didn't they? He nodded slowly. Her bracelet. She took a deep breath. Ethan, if she's gone, then you have to tell the truth about everything. About Isaac, about Amelia's deal. His jaw tightened. You think I haven't tried? You think I don't wake up every night wishing I could change it? Then why hide it? Because the people she made that deal with, they're still out there, he said, his voice trembling. She didn't just vanish, Clara. She was running from them. Who? He looked away. The same man in that photo you found. Clara's heart dropped. The one from her college days. He nodded. Amelia told me he was just a friend. But after she disappeared, I found bank transfers, thousands of dollars sent to his account, and letters, threats. He wanted money, and when she stopped paying, he came after her. Are you saying he... I think he took her. Ethan's voice cracked. Or worse. Clara's eyes filled with tears. She looked down at Eli, sleeping peacefully in her arms, unaware that his parents' world was unraveling. We have to tell the police, she said. He shook his head. If they dig into this, they'll find Isaac's file, your sister's name. They'll take Eli away. Do you understand? For the first time, Clara saw fear in him, not as a millionaire, but as a father desperate to protect his son. "Please, Clara," he whispered, "let me fix this before it's too late." But deep down, she knew it already was. The next morning, the news spread across Savannah. A new lead in the Harrington disappearance. Reporters swarmed outside the gates, shouting questions, flashing cameras. Inside, the tension grew unbearable. That evening, as Clara rocked Eli to sleep, she heard footsteps outside the nursery. Not Ethan's, slower, heavier. She turned just in time to see a shadow pass the door. "Mrs. Dalton," she called. No answer. Her pulse quickened. She stepped into the hallway and froze. A man stood at the far end, half in shadow, his coat dripping from the rain. His voice was low, familiar, chilling. "You must be Clara Ruiz," he said, taking a step forward. "You have something that belongs to me." Her blood ran cold. The locket, Amelia's locket, was still in her pocket. "Who are you?" she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Someone who's been waiting a long time to finish what Amelia started." And before Clara could move, he reached into his coat. Before Clara could move, the man reached into his coat. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She instinctively pulled Eli closer to her chest and stepped back into the nursery, locking the door with shaking hands. The sound of the rain outside mixed with her pounding heartbeat. Through the crack beneath the door, she saw his shadow linger, tall, motionless, predatory. "Clara," his voice drawled, quiet but sharp. "You don't need to be afraid. I just want the locket." She glanced at the crib, at Eli's sleeping face, and then at the small, silver locket glinting faintly in her palm. "You'll never get near him," she whispered. The handle rattled. Once, twice, then silence. Downstairs, she heard the heavy slam of the front door. The man was gone. For now. When Ethan returned minutes later, drenched and breathless, she met him halfway down the stairs. "There was someone here," she cried. "A man, tall, dark coat, said Amelia started something." Ethan froze. "Did he touch you? Did he see the baby?" "No, but he knew my name." Ethan ran a hand through his wet hair. "His name is Victor Langston. He was Amelia's business partner, and the man she was running from." Clara's breath caught. What did she owe him? "Money," Ethan said bitterly. "A fortune. He invested in one of my companies years ago and blamed Amelia when it failed. She promised to pay him back, but he wanted more. He wanted control over her, over our son." Clara's eyes widened. He thought Eli was his. Ethan nodded slowly. "That's why she ran. That's why she left that letter, to warn whoever found it." Lightning flashed through the window, illuminating his face, pale, haunted. He must have followed her to the river. Maybe she fought him. Maybe... His voice broke. Clara placed a trembling hand on his arm. "Then we can't hide anymore, Ethan. We have to tell the police everything. The lies, the adoption, all of it." He looked at her, defeated. "If we do that, they'll take Eli. They'll call it kidnapping, fraud. We'll lose him." But Clara's resolve hardened. "You won't lose him. Not while I'm here." That night, she stayed awake beside Eli, humming softly as rain tapped the windows. Every sound made her flinch. Every creak in the floorboards felt like a threat. But when dawn came, sunlight spilled gently through the curtains, and for the first time in days, she saw a flicker of peace in the baby's eyes. Then came the knock on the door. 2 detectives stood there. "Mr. Harrington," one said gravely, "we've found a woman's remains by the river. Jewelry and dental records confirm. It's Amelia Harrington." The room fell silent. Ethan staggered back, his face draining of color. Clara's heart ached for him, for the guilt, the love, the years stolen by secrets. After they left, he sank into a chair, staring at nothing. "It's over," he whispered. Clara knelt beside him. "No, Ethan, it's not. Not until we tell the truth." He looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his eyes changed. The wall of guilt cracked, revealing a man broken but still capable of love. "You've done more for my son than anyone ever could. You saved him, and me." Tears filled her eyes. "Then let's save him the right way." Days later, Ethan stood before the press, confessing everything: the adoption, Amelia's debt, the threats, the lies. The scandal erupted, but the truth brought peace. Victor Langston was arrested in Houston after attempting to flee the state. Months passed. The mansion no longer felt like a tomb but a home. The magnolia trees bloomed again, and laughter, small, bright, fragile, filled the halls. One afternoon, Clara walked through the garden holding Eli's tiny hand. Ethan watched from the porch, his heart lighter than it had been in years. "He loves you, you know," he said softly. Clara smiled, glancing down at the boy. "He's my family. Ethan always will be." He stepped closer. "And what about me?" Her heart fluttered. She looked up, her voice barely a whisper. "You already are." The wind stirred the magnolia petals around them like falling snow, a promise of new beginnings, born from loss, love, and the courage to face the truth. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and tell me if you liked this story.